The lake was silent the morning Karen decided she owned it. Mist hovered above the still water, rising in pale ribbons as the sun pulled itself over the tree line. My boat, massive, gleaming, stubbornly oversized, waited on the dock like a loyal animal ready for adventure. I had just poured myself a coffee when I heard the first sign of incoming trouble, the familiar high-pitched yelling of the HOA queen herself, Karen. The gravel crunched under her sandals as she marched toward my dock, waving a stack of papers like she was serving a royal eviction. I didn't move. I didn't flinch. I just watched her through the steam of my coffee, wondering how early a person had to wake up to be this angry. She planted herself 5 feet away from me. "You can't have that thing here," she announced, stabbing a finger toward my boat. "That thing," I said, slowly turning my head toward it, "is my boat." "It's too big," she snapped. "It violates section. Caron, I cut in. You don't have jurisdiction over the lake." "Actually, I do," she insisted. "The OOA rules clearly state that any vessel exceeding, this is a public lake," I reminded her. "Not your backyard." She blinked, taken aback, like the idea of not owning something physically hurt her brain. But then she recovered, as Karens do, tightening her jaw like she had swallowed a lemon. "You need to move it," she said, "or we'll tow it." I actually laughed. "We're going to tow a 30-foot boat off a lake you don't own?" "Yes," she said with the terrifying confidence only a true HOA warrior possessed, and then she stormed away. That was the day I realized she wasn't just another loud neighbor. She was on a mission, and I had just become her main character. By noon, 2 HOA board members were measuring my boat with tape, like they were preparing a home inspection for a floating house. One held the tape, the other jotted numbers on a clipboard, both of them avoiding eye contact with me like I was radioactive. "Hi guys," I said, leaning on the railing. "Instead of measuring my boat, why don't you measure how much authority you actually have on this lake?" Neither answered. Karen returned at exactly 12:16 p.m. because she claimed official assessments must be delivered midday, and handed me a violation notice. Not on my property, not near my driveway, but here on my dock, like she now owned the water beneath my feet. The notice said, "Large watercraft exceeding HOA visual guidelines, immediate removal required. Tow scheduled, 4:0 p.m. I stared at the paper, then at her. "You scheduled a tow for a boat on a lake?" "Yes," she said proudly. "With what?" "A tow truck," she replied. Blinked twice. Karen, sweetheart, do you expect a tow truck to swim out here? It will figure it out," she said with absolute faith. I had to look away so I wouldn't burst out laughing. 4 o'clock arrived. And to my absolute delight, Karen actually brought a tow truck, backing it down the boat ramp like she was preparing for a NASCAR pit stop. The driver stepped out, confused. "You want me to tow something in the water?" Karen shoved the ticket toward him. "It's oversized. It must be removed." He stared at her, then at the lake, then back at her. "Ma'am, trucks don't float. Well, figure something out," she barked. He looked at me with pleading eyes that said, "Please tell me she's joking." I shrugged. "She's serious," I said. "Sorry about your afternoon." The man lasted 15 minutes before giving up. He got in his truck, muttered something about never working with HOA again, and left. Karen turned bright red. "This isn't over," she hissed. "I really hope it's not," I said. "This is the most fun I've had all month." Over the next week, Karen escalated from mildly insane to fully unhinged. She held HOA meetings entirely dedicated to my boat on my dock on a lake they didn't own. She printed flyers calling me the lake hazard. She sent emails to the entire neighborhood claiming my boat blocked the ecosystem's natural flow, as if fish needed more room to commute. She claimed it cast excessive shade and disrupted natural light patterns. She even claimed it was emotionally stressful to look at. But the crowning moment came when she made her boldest announcement yet. "The HOA hereby declares management authority over the lake." She stood on a folding chair when she said it, as if height added legitimacy, while her minions nodded like brainwashed ducklings. I couldn't help myself. I raised my hand and said, "Karen, you can't just declare ownership of a lake. It doesn't work like a monarchy." Actually, it does," she said confidently. "Karen," I said, "you can't colonize water." Her face twitched. That's when I realized I had to put an end to it. Not through yelling, on through anger, not through fighting, through ownership. If she wanted to play queen of the lake, then I'd become the king. I started researching the lake's ownership structure. Turns out the lake wasn't public. It wasn't owned by the HOA. It wasn't owned by the county. It was privately owned by an old man who inherited it decades ago and never lived near it. The man was in his 70s, lived 2 states away, and was tired of paying taxes for a lake he didn't use. I called him. "Hi, sir. I live near your lake. I have a proposal. You want to buy it?" He asked. I wasn't going to say that yet, but yes. How fast do you want it? As fast as possible. So. The man laughed and said, "I've been hoping someone would call. I'll sell it cheap. 2 weeks, 2 signatures, 1 wire transfer." And suddenly, the entire lake was mine. Not figuratively, not symbolically, not in a Karen belief she owns it way. I owned the land under it, the water above it, the dock, the access points, even the fish. According to law, I even owned the airspace 5 feet above the water. In other words, I owned everything Karen thought she controlled. And she had no idea. The next day, Karen marched toward my dock again with a fresh violation notice. The T. She was wearing her HOA polo, sunglasses, and that expression that suggested she had been practicing in the mirror. "You are officially banned from using the lake," she declared. "Why?" I asked. "Your boat continues to be a hazard. The HOA has decided to remove you from all lake-related privileges." "Oh," I said. "And how do you plan to enforce that?" By authority of the HOA board. I took a long sip of my coffee. Then I handed her a folder. "What's this?" she asked. "Open it." She flipped it open. Her eyes scanned the first page, then the second, then froze on the third. The title read, "Property Deed Full Ownership of Lake Lot 17A, Water Rights Included." She didn't speak. She didn't breathe. I finally said, "Karen, you're standing on my lake." Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. You didn't." "Oh, I did. She backed up 1 step as if she thought the water would swallow her. "You can't just buy a lake," she screeched. "Well," I said, "I did. And I have the paperwork." The color drained from her face. "This changes nothing," she snapped, voice cracking. "I think it changes everything," I said. Her eye twitched again. You can't ban us." "Oh, but I can," I said softly. "And I haven't even started." Her breathing became sharp and fast. "Oh, you're bluffing." "I'm choosing mercy." "But if you push me..." "What will you do?" she barked. I leaned close. "I'll remove the HOA from the entire lake." And that was when she finally cracked. Karen didn't sleep the night she learned I owned the lake. I know this because at 5:27 a.m., before the sun was even a rumor in the sky, she was already outside pacing along the shoreline like a general preparing for war. Even from my window, I could see her arms flailing as she talked to herself, rehearsing speeches, planning attacks, convincing herself she still controlled something she no longer had any claim to. I watched her for a full minute, sipping my coffee, wondering if she would eventually turn into smoke from pure rage. When she finally noticed me standing on my porch, she froze, narrowed her eyes, then pointed at me like she was summoning a curse. "This isn't over," she shouted across the quiet morning. "It looks pretty over from here," I called back. She stormed away, stomping so hard on the gravel that it looked like she was trying to crack the earth open. I knew she would try something again. I just didn't know how soon. How soon. The first attack came only hours later, when a group of HOA members gathered at the boat ramp wearing matching vests like they had joined a small paramilitary group. They set up folding tables, clipboards, and a large sign that said, "Mandatory lake inspections, HOA authorized residents only." I walked down to them, hands in my pockets, amused. A man with an oversized sun hat stepped forward. "Sir, HOA lake inspections are in effect today." "Freezer, you'll need approval to use the lake." "Approval from who?" I asked. "From us," he said proudly. "And who are you?" "The 8th HOA Lake Committee." I blinked at him. Did you just make that up this morning?" He looked offended. "No, we've existed for months." "Months? What do you do?" "We observe lake activity." "And what have you accomplished?" "We've observed things." I had to bite my tongue to avoid laughing. I pointed at the lake. "That entire body of water belongs to me now. You can't inspect what you don't own." "That hasn't been confirmed," he said. "Check the county recorder," I replied. "We will," he said, nodding seriously. "Good. Come back when you learn how property law works." He slowly backed away like I had pulled out a weapon instead of legal documents. The second attack came shortly after noon. Karen returned, this time dragging a sheriff's deputy behind her like a trophy she had captured. The deputy looked tired. Karen looked victorious. "Oh, there," she barked, pointing at my dock. "That boat violates HOA policy. Remove it." The deputy turned to me. Sir, she claims your vessel is causing..." I handed him the deed. He read the first 2 lines and sighed heavily. "Ma'am," he said, "they own the lake." "No, they don't," Karen insisted. "Yes, they do," he repeated. Karen crossed her arms. "Well, even if he owns the lake, he doesn't own the view." "The view?" the deputy asked. "Yes," she said confidently. "HOA rules apply to the viewscape." The deputy stared at her for a good 10 seconds, then handed the deed back to me. "I'm going back to my car," he murmured, walking away like he needed a nap. Karen stood there trembling, her face dark red. "You think this scares me?" she yelled. "I think everything scares you," I said. "You are abusing power. I bought a lake. You wrote a flyer. Who's abusing what?" She stormed off again, but this time she wasn't just mad. She was planning. That evening, I sat on my dock, legs over the water, watching the sky burn into orange and gold. There was something peaceful about owning an entire lake, not in a bragging way, not even in a power way, more like tranquility, freedom, independence, the kind of quiet where you can hear your own heartbeat. But I knew it wouldn't stay quiet for long. Karen wasn't the type to lose gracefully. And she proved that at exactly 10:41 p.m., just when I was about to head inside, I saw flashlights flickering near the opposite shoreline. At first I thought it was kids sneaking around, but then I heard loud whispers and angry hissing. It was Karen, and she wasn't alone. There were 8 HOA board members with her, all dressed in black outfits like they were attempting a night raid. One of them carried bolt cutters. Another held what looked like a stack of laminated policies. 2 were dragging an inflatable kayak. I walked toward the edge of the dock, amused and confused. "Evening, Karen," I called. She froze mid-crouch. "How did you see us?" she hissed. "You're shining flashlights directly at your own faces," she groaned. "Oh, don't interfere. HOA business on my lake." "Oh, that is not your lake," she snapped. "Oh, do you want me to print the deed on a billboard?" "Oh, you forged it." Karen, it's recorded by the county." The county can be wrong." "About land ownership?" Yes." I sat down. "All right, tell me. What exactly is tonight's mission?" She lifted her chin proudly. "We're confiscating the boat." I blinked. "Oh, just at night?" "Yes." "With an inflatable kayak?" "Yes." One of her board members held the kayak up. It was bright yellow with cartoon ducks printed across the side. "Is that a children's kayak?" I asked. "It was on sale," he said quietly. I rubbed my forehead. "You can't tow my boat with a duck kayak." "Kaku, with a duck kayak." Karen glared. "We will tow it with honor. That's not how physics works. We are the HOA. We're 8 middle-aged people in black sweatpants. We have authority. You have laminated paper." She snapped her fingers, and the group moved toward the water, determined and delusional. 3 men attempted to get into the kayak at once. It sank immediately. 1 fell into the lake. 2 others panicked and grabbed each other like drowning spiders. Karen screamed, "Stop embarrassing yourselves." One of the women yelled, "We're trying." Another shouted, "Other ducks are laughing at us." I lost it. I laughed so hard I had to hold the dock railing to stay standing. Karen glared at me like laughter was a personal attack. "This isn't over," she yelled again. "It sure looks like it's over," I said. "We will return. Bring more duck kayaks. Stop mocking us. Stop mocking us. You're making it too easy." They retreated, wet, shivering, humiliated. But she wasn't done. She was just warming up. The next morning I woke to the sound of heavy machinery. At first I thought the county was doing road work, but then I heard the unmistakable voice of Karen yelling instructions. I ran outside. My jaw dropped. She had rented a massive construction crane. A literal crane. It towered above the trees, its long arms stretching toward my dock like an angry robot dinosaur preparing to attack. A group of HOA members stood around it, wearing reflective vests that clearly didn't belong to them. "What are you doing?" I shouted. Karen turned to me with a crazed look in her eyes. "We're towing your boat, HOA style." I leaned against a tree, absolutely exhausted by her determination. "You rented a crane?" "Yes," she said proudly. "Oh, to tow a boat from the water?" "Yes." "Onto what?" She blinked. "What? Once the crane lifts it, where will it put the boat?" She stared at me, then at the crane, then back at me. then at the empty ground around her. So one of the HOA board members whispered, "We didn't plan that part." Karen ignored him. "It doesn't matter. We'll improvise." The crane operator, an older man with a thick grey beard and infinite patience, walked over to me. "Sir, do you want me to call the police?" I sighed. "No, she'll burn out eventually." He chuckled. "I've been operating cranes for 30 years. This is the dumbest thing I've seen." "A welcome to my life," I said. Karen climbed onto a step stool so she could look taller while shouting commands. "I'll lower the hook." Karen screamed again. I said lower the... "It's his crane," I said. "Oh, not anymore," she yelled. "The HOA has requisition rights." "No, we don't," said one of her board members. She elbowed him hard. The operator finally stepped toward her. "Imam," he said calmly, "you can't commandeer a crane." "Yes, I can." "No," he said, "you really can't. I'm the HOA president. I don't care if you're the Queen of England," the operator said. "I'm not lifting that boat." Karen shrieked like a kettle boiling over. "You're all useless." She screamed at her board. "We're welcome," one of them shouted back. She turned, spotted me, and pointed at me with a trembling finger. "This isn't over," she shouted. "You said that 12 times," I said. "And I'll keep saying it. Or maybe try something new?" I offered. "Oh, fine," she yelled. "This is just the beginning. It better," I said. She stomped away again, but I knew she had saved her real move for last. The final attack of part 2 came that night. I was sitting on my porch reading when every single light along the lake suddenly turned on. Floodlights suddenly turned on. Floodlights, spotlights, flashlights taped to poles, portable stadium lights. The entire shoreline was brighter than a football field. Then a voice boomed across the lake through a megaphone. "Attention, lake violator." I looked up. On the far shore, Karen stood with the HOA behind her, all wearing bright safety vests and holding signs. A giant banner hung behind them. "Remove the boat or lose the lake." I walked to the edge of the dock. "What now?" I called. "I protest," she screamed into the megaphone. "You're protesting my lake, Dakuk?" "Yes." "On my shoreline?" "Yes." "Without my permission?" "Yes." "That's trespassing." "No, it's not. It literally is." She puffed up like a furious balloon. "The HOA declares that this land is temporarily public." "You can't declare land public." We can. So we can." "Karen, you're on private property." She looked around confused, then checked her clipboard. She looked back up. "We didn't think this through." "No," I said. "You really didn't." She pointed at me dramatically. "This isn't over." "Please," I said. "I'm begging you. Come up with a new line." She threw the megaphone into the grass and marched away. The HOA followed her, confused, defeated, mumbling among themselves. And as the floodlights finally went dark one by one, I knew this was more than a feud, more than a fight, more than a war. This was personal for her, for her. And tomorrow I was going to end it. The night before everything changed, the lake was quiet in a way that felt almost unnatural, like the water itself was holding its breath, waiting to see what Karen would do next. I sat on the dock with my feet dangling in the cool water, watching the reflection of moonlight ripple across the surface, whose surface wasn't as deep. Owning an entire lake still didn't feel real, not fully. But Karen's insanity had pushed me from wanting peace to wanting justice. I knew she wasn't done. Karens never accept defeat. They treat the word "to know" the same way dragons react to sword wounds. So I waited, and I was right. The final chapter of the war began the next morning at 6:02 a.m. when I woke to the sound of an engine so loud it rattled the windows. My first thought was, she brought the crane back. But no, this time she had gone bigger, much bigger. A massive barge-like pontoon boat was approaching the lake from the road, stacked on a trailer that definitely was not rated for its size. On top of the pontoon was a scaffolding tower. On top of the scaffolding tower was a giant banner, and on the banner was a terrible drawing of my boat, with a giant red X slashed over it. I stepped outside slowly, already exhausted. Karen stood beside the boat like she had conquered a kingdom. She pointed at me immediately. "You're done," she screamed before I even said anything. "Good morning to you too," I replied. "Today is the day the HOA takes back the lake." "I own the lake," I said. "Not after today," she shouted. I blinked. "What do you think will happen today?" "A reign of terror and semi-reign of coffee drinking and minding my own business." "Don't twist my words," she yelled. She gestured dramatically at her pontoon boat. "This is the HOA enforcement vessel. It looks like a floating yard sail. It will patrol the lake. It's going to sink. It will enforce our policy. It will collapse before it gets in the water. Justo. One of the HOA board members leaned toward another and whispered, "Is it supposed to lean like that? It's got character." The second whispered back. Karen ignored them. "The HOA hereby declares a full takeover of the lake," she announced theatrically. "Karen," I said calmly, "you can't take over something that belongs to me." "Watch me," she growled. The HOA swung into action with military-level chaos. Half of them tried to untie the pontoon. The other half argued about who lost the giant novelty megaphone. Someone dropped the clipboard. Someone else tripped over the banner rope. One man fell off the trailer entirely. Karen screamed orders that made no sense. Lower the mast. Prepare the deck. Activate lake protocol. There is no lake protocol. Someone yelled. There is now. When they finally managed to roll the pontoon into the water, it wobbled like a drunk hippo before lurching sideways. Half the HOA nearly fell off the dock trying to board it. Karen stepped aboard triumphantly. Just as the entire structure leaned so far left the water touched the deck, I burst out laughing. She did not appreciate it. "This is a serious operation," she shouted. "You're sinking," I replied. "We are fine. You are listing at a 20-degree angle. This is normal." It was not normal. They spent 20 minutes trying to start the motor. The engine coughed like a dying lawnmower, spat out a cloud of smoke, and then stalled again. The OA panicked. Karen yelled at every single one of them. Someone claimed the boat was cursed. Eventually, by sheer miracle or spite, the engine sputtered to life. The pontoon lurched forward, wobbling across the lake with all the grace of a collapsing shopping cart. Karen rose to full height, or as close as her height allowed, and pointed at my dock like an angry empress. "Remove your boat or face the consequences." I cupped my hands around my mouth. "What consequences?" Consequences. Those aren't real." "They are if I say they are." Her voice echoed across the lake like a furious goose honking into a megaphone. I shouldn't have laughed, but I did. And that's when she snapped. She pointed wildly at the helm. Full speed." Her driver hesitated. "Karen, full speed might not be safe on this." "Hew it," she screamed. "Karen, full speed." He reluctantly shoved the throttle forward. The pontoon lurched, then groaned, then shot forward way too fast. Karen lost her balance immediately. The HOA members scrambled like bowling pins. The banner snapped in half. Half the chair slid into the lake. A cooler tumbled overboard. Someone screamed, someone else prayed. The boat swerved left, then right, then left again in uncontrollable zigzags. And then it hit my boat. Not hard, not damaging. Just enough for Karen to scream like she had been stabbed by the ocean itself. "He attacked US," she shrieked. "I was literally standing on the dock. You moved your boat into our path. The lake does not have lanes, Karen. You caused a collision. You aimed at me. No. You swerved." I blinked slowly at her. "I'm standing still. Don't gaslight me." The whole members were panicked. The boat was sideways now, wedged against my dock in the most awkward position imaginable. Karen pointed at the damage, which was basically a smudge on the railing, and shrieked, "You will pay for this." "It's literally your fault," I said calmly. "A liar. Physics disagrees." "I don't believe in physics." That explained a lot. And then came the turning point, the moment everything shifted, the moment she truly self-destructed. She grabbed the megaphone and screamed, "HOA member, seize his boat." I yelled back, "I touched that boat and you're trespassing? But we have authority. You have a sinking pontoon, a charge." No one moved. "It's a charge." Still nothing. "I do it." Still nothing. "Boop." One man raised his hand shakily. "Karen, we don't have legal jurisdiction." "Yes, we do." "And no, we really don't." "We're on his property," another whispered. "We're technically invading," another added. "This might be a felony," someone muttered. Karen's face contorted into something between rage and existential crisis. She shrieked, "You're losing your minds. You are all weak." Half the HOA quietly stepped off the pontoon into knee-deep water and walked away. Some didn't even look back. They were done. Completely done. Completely done. Karen stood alone on the tilting deck, trembling with rage, gripping the megaphone like it was the only thing keeping her alive. "You think this means you win?" she screamed at me. "I know it does," I said. She screamed loud enough to make birds flee the trees. I finally stepped forward, calm, tired, chill. "Done." I held up the thick binder of paperwork. Permits, lake rights, property laws, private access rights, everything airtight and undeniable. "Karen," I said, "you've left me no choice." She glared, chest heaving, eyes wild. I hereby officially remove the HOA from this lake, effective immediately. She opened her mouth to scream, but nothing came out. Her face went pale, then red, then pale again, like she couldn't decide whether to be furious or faint. You can't, she whispered. I can, I said. I own the lake, I control the water rights, I control the access points. And starting today, HOA members are banned from entering, launching from, swimming in, fishing in, paddling in, standing near, or even looking angrily at my lake. Her jaw fell open. You're banishing us? Yes, you're banning the HOA. Yes, you can't ban an organization. I just did. Fuzz did. You're a tyrant. You tried to tow my boat with a duck kayak. It's irrelevant. It's extremely relevant. She shook her head, trembling. This is illegal. I know, I said, your actions were illegal. I'm enforcing private property rights. She looked around, desperate for allies. The HOA members who remained stepped back from her, shaking their heads, refusing to meet her eyes. She was alone, hopeless, beaten, finished. Leave the lake, Karen, I said gently. And don't come back. Her face twisted. She pointed at me with a shaky finger and screamed. This isn't over. I sighed. You've said that 23 times. It's still not over. It is, I said softly. Goodbye, Karen. And with that, she broke. She screamed a long, high-pitched, frustrated shriek that echoed across the lake and then stomped away, splashing through the water, slipping twice, cursing everyone she had ever met. It was the most dramatic exit I'd ever seen. What came after was quiet, peaceful, strangely warm. The HOA disbanded its lake committee entirely. People apologized for ever supporting her chaos. Neighbors brought me pies, beers, fresh cut fish, anything to say thank you for finally ending the chaos. And as for Karen, she stayed away for weeks. Eventually, she resigned as HOA president, moved out, moved out. Posted a 2-star review of the neighborhood online, calling it unmanageable and corrupt. Good riddance. The lake returned to calm. My boat remained untouched, and every sunrise felt like a fresh start, One evening, as I watched the water shimmer under the fading light, I realized something. Karen hadn't ruined the lake. She had made me appreciate it. She had pushed me to protect it, to own it, to defend it. She tried to take the lake from me, and instead she gave it to me. I looked out across the water, peaceful and mine, and whispered to no one in particular, worth every minute.